Hello and welcome to York Railway Institute here in the middle of York. Today on YorkTV we're looking at the sport of chess, and to give me a few tips are Herbert Lockwood, the president, and Richard Hardy, the coach and club champion of the York Railway Institute Chess Club. Herbert and Richard, thank you very much for your time in speaking to me today. Now, first of all, Herbert, could you tell us something about the history of the chess club here at York Railway Institute?
Yes, well, we've only been here at the Railway Institute for 13 years, but it evolved out of York Chess Club, which has now been going over 100 years. In fact, I've got a membership card going back 100 years. Not my own, obviously. So we evolved over that time, and always been involved in Yorkshire chess, and it's been about the same size of club, I think about 50 members. And as I say, we came here 13 years ago. We've run junior sections. And we've currently, I believe, got probably the strongest club in Yorkshire in terms of the number of members and the overall strength.
So Richard, you're the club champion. How did you get interested in chess and why did you join this particular club?
I got interested in chess at school when I was about 7. It was an activity that just came about from wherever. And I was thrown in at the deep end into a kids' competition. I just tended to win. And I don't really know why. I've never read a chess book or anything like that in my life, but I joined the Primary Street Chess Club, which is just down the road, and quite liked the challenge because I was the youngest there, and they were all quite older people. And when you're 7-year-old, you tend to ask the age of a person rather than what standard they are, and then go home to your mum and say, "I've beat someone who was 50."
Okay, so Herbert, is Richard a worthy club champion?
Very much so. He always talks about the fact that he's organised it himself, but he is purely the best in the championship. We've got some excellent players who represent York Railway Institute on Saturdays in the intercity games, who unfortunately can't play in the club championship, but he's very worthy club champion.
So gentlemen, we're here obviously about to start our game. Could you talk us through your strategy then, Herbert?
Well, the main thing about the opening moves in chess is to try and capture the centre of the board, really, and get the central pawns out and get the slightly less important pieces out, which are fighting for the centre, and then in due course of time the other most important pieces, the queen and the 2 rooks, or castles as some people call them, come out at a later stage of the game.
Okay. Right, shall we start?
Yep. So I'm fighting to take that, Richard defends it.
So Richard, how important is it for young people to probably not only learn about chess, but also learn about chess in a positive way? Because obviously, as you mentioned before, it can be seen as being a bit boring and for older people. Yeah,
it's very important young people take up chess. It helps extremely with exams and the pressure that kids are under at school. And I teach at 3 schools. I've been doing Ebor School for 10 years. I do Tregellis School, which is the Mount School for juniors, and St Olive's School as well. And all them 3 schools have it on the actual curriculum. And it does help kids tremendous. With the pressures of exams and just logic puzzles and things like that. Really, really important.
So people like Nigel Short kind of made chess trendy, I suppose, was it late 80s, but since then there hasn't really been any famous names that kids can really associate with. Do you think that represents a decline in chess in Britain?
I think the teenage years of a chess player are very important. They get the tuition at the schools until 15, 16. And then football and physical sports take over. And as a teenager, I know myself, you get very lazy and you don't want to sit down at the board and work out whether that knight can do that. You want to get on with something else. And between 16 and 26, I would say, is where people give up or people go away from the game and come back at later life and say, I haven't played for 10 years, 20 years, but I used to play. And basically that's where chess is lacking, really. I don't think there's a lack of interest. I think a lot of people can play.
I'd like to make 2 or 3 points on that. First of all, the media picked up on Nigel Short, as you say. We've had far more grandmasters, people becoming grandmasters in the last few years. He was about only the third or fourth in actual fact, and he got a lot of fame by playing for the World Championship. But our players throughout the world do as well, if not better now. When the Soviet Union broke down into its constituent countries, before they broke down, we were about the third or fourth nation in the world. But with its constituent countries breaking down, we have slipped down the order now to maybe 9th or 10th, so that's had an effect as well. And the third thing is that this sport is not officially recognised by chess is not officially recognised by the government as a sport. It's something that we're striving for, but haven't succeeded in. So that in itself has some disadvantages in getting money to support the game.
But what makes chess a sport? I mean, some people would say it's not a sport, it's actually a sort of kind of mental science.
It's far more competitive and far more a sport than some things that you get in the Olympics, such as some of the swimming or gymnastic events and things, which are purely, and ice skating, a lot of them are just artistic events. In the competitive sense, I think it's far more of a sport than lots of those.
It's a mental sport more than anything. I mean, some of our games on Saturdays last 4 hours, and basically when I've finished after 4 hours, I'm exhausted, as if I've just been running a marathon, depending on who I'm playing and that. But it should be recognised as a sport because it's mentally a sport.
So, gentlemen, you've agreed a draw, not the best result. Why have you agreed a draw?
I'm happy with the draw because from points situation, it's level. The bishop's worth 3 points, the knight's worth 3 points. Pawn's worth 1, we've got equal pawns. Because we've only got 1 minor piece each, in order to get checkmate, we're going to have to get one of the pawns to the other side of the board and change it into a queen. That's going to be very difficult for either of us to do, because each pawn's blocking each path. And as you can see by the clock, we've got a couple of minutes left each to do it, which is pretty tough.
So it's a moral defeat for you, Herbert.
Well, White's supposed to have a slight advantage, but Richard is the higher rated player, so I'm quite pleased with the draw.
What's your goal for the York RI Chess Club in the future?
Well, first of all, we'll concentrate on this season, because if we manage to win our last 2 games on a Saturday for our first team, we'll be the Yorkshire champions for the first time in 100 years. Other than that, we are very, very fortunate in having organisers in York, which a lot of other cities don't. In fact, some of the larger cities in Yorkshire, like Sheffield, who we played last Saturday, don't have a centralised club, although they've got phenomenally strong players. So if we can maintain what we've got now, which is a strong club, plenty of members, but more than anything else, some wonderful organisers, we'll be very happy. So we just hope people keep coming along and the junior players keep advancing and become senior players and don't run off, as Richard says, as soon as they get to 16 and find other things to do.
In York, we have what I'm aware of, the biggest junior chess anywhere. And I mean, we go to places like Hull and Leeds, and we play there, and they have no junior members at all. We go to chess competitions, congresses, and we take more junior members from York to them places than they have. And with us actually branching out into schools, this is our aim, basically. The RI Chess Club is to provide ourselves with a future. In 10, 15 years' time, these juniors will become us.
Okay, well, the future certainly sounds bright, and thank you very much for your time today.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.